Hi all, we're looking at Acts chapter 3 verses 1 to 10 in this session. Go ahead and cut the video, read the passage, get a feel for it, and come back and we'll talk about it. You know, I find that biblical writers have a tendency to include details that are have either deeper meanings, or they don't accidentally just throw details around. If they share details, they have a reason for sharing those details. And so as we read this first passage, this first passage here, this Acts chapter 3, 1 through 10, is a recording of the very first miracle that the apostles did after Jesus is taken to heaven, after the ascension. So here we have Peter and John coming up to the temple on one afternoon, and it says they're coming at 3 in the afternoon, the time of prayer. That's a significant time because yes, it is indeed the time of prayer. It is a time in which many people would have been going into the temple, but beyond that, is this also the exact same time that Jesus actually died in Jerusalem or on the Calvary some 50-some days earlier. So we have that they're walking into town at 3 o'clock, the same time Jesus dies. But there's more to it than just that, because they happen to be walking through the Beautiful Gate, or the Gate Beautiful. The Gate Beautiful essentially is on the eastern side of town, or at least that's what scholars tend to believe. And the eastern side of town is the same gate. This gate is almost certainly the same gate that Jesus would have come in on Palm Sunday. So the palms, the hurrah, the here comes the king, here comes King Jesus, as they wave and Hosanna and all the rest. This is the same gate that, again, 57, 58 days before, Jesus comes into the city and being waved in as the herald as the king. And then, of course, a few days later, he's put to death at 3 p.m. And so Luke includes these particular details. There may be nothing to it. On the other hand, they may be hints that there's something here we need to pay attention to, something that this particular passage is related to the things that Jesus taught or had to say. As we read this passage, you're going to see some things that, Peter and John are coming into town, and there's a beggar. Now, a beggar at a temple gate or a city gate is certainly not unusual. In fact, it is exactly what you would expect to find at a busy gate. It's the same reason why you see people with "I'll work for food" signs at busy intersections, because there's lots of traffic there. Remember back in these days that begging is a honorable trade for those who cannot otherwise work. And so it would have been unusual not to find a beggar or 2 or 12 or 15 there at the gate, being left there to beg to earn their money for the day and for their keep. And so Peter and John stop and heal one guy. And that, I think, is probably worthy of discussion more than almost anything else in this passage. Peter and John would have seen many beggars that day. And there's no record and no reason to believe that they did any more healing than this one particular beggar. And the question is then, why did they choose to heal this one guy? If they were there to relieve suffering, if they were there to make people all well, they would have gone through and just gone boom, 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 right down the line and healed the lepers and the beggars. The lepers wouldn't have been there, but healed the beggars of all types, blind, the halt, the lame, all the rest of these people. They've all been healed. Yet they chose to heal just the one. Why? And that's the discussion I'd invite you to have a look at, because if you connect that with the way Jesus did healing, because Jesus also didn't heal everybody he came upon, and you look at the rest of this chapter, perhaps, you just sort of glance in advance. We'll talk more about the rest of this chapter next week. But why did they choose this one guy? Or, if you will, why did God choose this one person for healing? Because there's got to be more to it than it's just relieving suffering for one person. What are the results of this one healing? Well, that's enough for now. You'll have lots to discuss, and I'll see you next week.